The great hall of the United Earth Embassy shimmered with glass walls and soft glowing lights. It was not only humans who filled the room. For the first time in history, the Solari had agreed to meet face-to-face with people of Earth. Tall, slender, and almost shining with a faint glow of silver-blue skin, the Solari carried themselves with quiet elegance. Their large eyes reflected starlight even though the room was enclosed. They moved with a calm grace that made humans feel clumsy in comparison. Ethan Cole stood among his fellow representatives, trying his best to look calm. He was only 24, the youngest in the room, and he knew very well he had not been chosen for his experience. Instead, his gift with languages and his curious nature had caught the attention of the council. Still, he felt out of place. His suit felt too tight, his palms were sweaty, and his heart thumped loudly as if the entire hall could hear it. A quiet bell rang, and the Solari delegation entered in perfect formation. Their leader, Elder Valen, spoke in a voice that seemed to echo without effort. "Humans of Earth," he said, "we welcome this chance to exchange knowledge. We come not as rulers, not as servants, but as seekers of truth. May this meeting begin with respect." Everyone applauded softly, and Ethan tried not to fidget. His job was not to speak much today. He was supposed to observe, record, and translate when needed. The senior ambassadors would handle the serious matters. At least that was the plan. Then he noticed her. Among the Solari delegation stood one who seemed slightly different from the rest. She was tall and graceful like the others, but her eyes held a sharper brightness like stars shining through clear water. Her silver-blue skin caught the light in a softer way, almost like dawn. While the others kept perfect composure, her gaze moved around the hall with curiosity. Her name, he would later learn, was Leora, but at that moment, she was simply the alien who made him forget his nervousness. The ceremony continued. Speeches were given, gifts were exchanged. Ethan tried to focus on his datapad, but his eyes kept drifting toward Leora. She too seemed to glance at him now and then, as if studying this one human who could not sit still. Finally, a break came. Delegates moved about the hall, speaking in smaller groups. Ethan found himself face-to-face with Leora. She tilted her head slightly, her voice like soft music when she spoke. "You are not like the others. Your gaze does not stay in one place." Ethan blinked, realizing she was speaking directly to him. He quickly searched his mind for proper words. I suppose I get distracted easily," he said with a nervous laugh. "Distracted?" she repeated as if testing the word. "You mean your mind wanders?" "Yes, exactly that." He nodded, her lips curved, just slightly upward. Solari did not smile like humans, but it was the closest thing. And then, without thinking, without planning, Ethan spoke. "You are lovely." The word slipped out like an accident, light as air. His heart froze the moment he realized what he had said. He had meant to say interesting or unique and something polite and safe. But the wrong word escaped. For a second, silence stretched between them. Ethan felt heat rush to his face. He wanted to disappear into the floor. Had he just insulted her? Would this be reported to her leaders? Would he be removed from the delegation for breaking protocol? But then something happened that no one expected. Leora's cheeks, faintly glowing with their natural light, deepened into a richer shade. It was the Solari version of a blush. Her large eyes widened slightly, and for the first time since she entered the hall, her perfect composure broke. "Say it again, human," she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. He wasn't sure if he had heard correctly. "I what?" "Say it again," Leora repeated, softer this time, almost shy. "The word you used. Lovely?" he asked carefully. She nodded once, and the faint glow on her cheeks deepened further. Ethan's thoughts raced. Why would such a simple human word cause this reaction? To the Solari, emotions were usually private, almost hidden. Yet here she was, showing something openly. He wasn't sure if it was a good sign or a dangerous one. Before he could say more, another Solari approached, one of the elder advisors. Leora quickly straightened, her composure returning, though the faint glow on her cheeks remained. The elder gave Ethan a long, unreadable look before guiding Leora away. Ethan stood frozen. His heart still raced and his mind spun in confusion. He had made a mistake, but it did not feel like a mistake. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur for him. Words from other speakers sounded distant. All he could think about was the way Leora had looked at him, the way her voice had changed when she asked him to repeat that single word. When the hall emptied and the human delegation prepared to return to their quarters, Ethan finally had a moment alone. He sat on his bunk staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene again and again. "Lovely," he muttered under his breath. "Of all words, why that one?" He thought about the Solari reputation. They were known as seekers of knowledge, but also as beings who hid their emotions behind reason. For centuries, they had been described in records as almost untouched by feelings that ruled humans. Yet Leora's blush told a different story. Was it possible that beneath their calm, the Solari longed for the same warmth humans did? Or was Leora simply different, an outlier among her people? Ethan didn't know. But one thing was certain. His mistake had opened a door. And whether it led to friendship, trouble, or something far more unexpected, he could not yet tell. As he drifted to sleep, the memory of her voice echoed softly in his mind. Say it again. Human. The words carried both mystery and promise, and deep inside Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The morning on the orbital station began with soft artificial lights rising across the walls, imitating a sunrise. Ethan awoke still replaying the memory of yesterday's accident in his head. The single word he had spoken, lovely, still echoed in his mind. He wondered if Leora was thinking about it too, or if she had already dismissed it as meaningless. The human delegation gathered for breakfast in the common hall. Conversations buzzed about cultural protocols, diplomatic progress, and the upcoming joint lectures with the Solari. Ethan tried to act normal, nodding when spoken to, but his mind wandered. His fellow delegate Maya noticed. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said, pouring tea into a thin glass. "Just a lot on my mind," Ethan replied, forcing a smile. He dared not explain further. What could he say? I called an alien girl lovely and she blushed. Nobody would believe it. Or worse, they might forbid him from speaking to her again. After breakfast, the humans joined the Solari delegation in a wide, crystal-domed chamber. The day's schedule involved sharing cultural traditions. Humans presented music and art, while the Solari shared their written language and ancient records. The chamber's air shimmered with quiet beauty, filled with holographic displays of both worlds. Ethan sat quietly, listening to the presentations. But then he noticed movement. Across the chamber, Leora was watching him. Her gaze was calm yet focused, as if she had been waiting for him to look her way. When their eyes met, her lips curved ever so slightly. Again, that near smile. Ethan quickly looked away, his ears warm. But curiosity pulled him back, and he realized she was not ignoring him. She was studying him. When the formal session ended, Ethan thought he would return with his group. Instead, as the delegates began to leave, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Human Ethan," Leora said. He turned, startled, and found her standing closer than before. The glow of the chamber reflected gently on her silver-blue skin. "Yes," he managed to reply. "I wish to understand," she said carefully, choosing her words. "The word you spoke yesterday. Lovely, what does it mean?" Ethan swallowed hard. He had hoped the topic would fade, but now it returned stronger than ever. He tried to explain. Lovely is a word humans use to describe beauty. But not only beauty of appearance. It can mean gentle, kind, or something that makes the heart feel warm. She tilted her head as though weighing every part of his answer. So it is not only an observation. It is an emotional? Yes, Ethan said. It carries feeling. A faint glow touched her cheeks again. Strange, she whispered almost to herself. Then she looked at him directly. No Solari has ever spoken to me with such a word. Ethan hesitated. Do Solari not use words like that? She shook her head slowly. We value clarity. Words of feeling are considered imprecise. Yet when you said it, it changed something inside me. I did not understand why. Her honesty caught him off guard. She was not mocking him, not scolding him. She was asking, genuinely curious. Before Ethan could respond, voices from across the chamber called her name. Another Solari scholar gestured for her to join them. Leora gave Ethan one last look, her expression unreadable, then turned gracefully and walked away. Ethan stood frozen again, heart racing. She had sought him out. She had asked about the word. This was no coincidence. Later that day, smaller cultural workshops began. Humans taught Solari how to paint with colors, while the Solari introduced their method of crystal inscription, where patterns were etched into glowing stones to preserve knowledge for centuries. To Ethan's surprise, Leora requested to be paired with him during one of these sessions. The coordinator agreed, perhaps thinking it a harmless arrangement. They sat at a low table, a crystal block placed between them. Leora handed Ethan a delicate tool shaped like a needle of light. "Etch a memory," she instructed. "That is the Solari way. A crystal becomes a vessel for thought." Ethan carefully held the tool, unsure of his skill. "I've never done this before." She leaned slightly closer, guiding his hand. "Do not think too hard. Let your mind picture what matters and let the crystal hold it." Ethan closed his eyes briefly, then pressed the tool to the crystal. A faint line of light appeared, forming slowly into a pattern. It was uneven, not elegant, but it was his. When he finished, the crystal glowed faintly with an image of Earth's oceans. Leora's eyes widened just a little. "You think of water?" "Yes," Ethan said with a smile. "It's home. The oceans mean peace to me." She studied the glowing pattern for a long moment, then whispered, "Lovely." Ethan blinked. She had spoken the word back to him, her voice soft but steady. The sound of it on her lips made his chest tighten strangely. "You remembered," he said. Her glow deepened faintly. "It feels correct." The session ended, but neither of them wanted to leave the table. Other Solari glanced at them, whispering quietly. Ethan noticed but pretended not to. He didn't want to spoil the fragile bridge forming between them. That evening, Ethan walked along the observation deck, a wide corridor with a glass ceiling showing stars beyond. He needed air, or as much air as one could find inside a station. To his surprise, Leora was already there, standing by the railing gazing at the stars. She turned when he approached. "You walk alone," she said softly. "Sometimes it helps me think," he replied. "Do Solari ever do that?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I think more now than I used to. Since meeting you." Ethan leaned on the railing beside her, the stars shining beyond. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Her gaze stayed on the stars. "I do not know, but it is different, and I want to understand more." They stood in silence for a while, sharing the quiet view. For the first time, Ethan did not feel nervous. The stars above, the calm around them, and her presence beside him felt strangely natural. At last, Leora spoke again. "Ethan, would you teach me more human words of feeling?" He smiled, surprised but pleased. "Of course. Where should we start?" She turned to him, her eyes reflecting starlight. "Start with the ones that mean warmth. The ones that make you call someone. Lovely." Ethan's heart skipped, and in that moment he realized this was no simple accident anymore. This was the beginning of something far larger than he had imagined. That night, as he returned to his quarters, Ethan felt lighter than he had in days. He knew others might soon notice the growing connection between him and Leora. Some might disapprove. But he also knew that curiosity, hers and his, was stronger than fear. The word lovely had started as a mistake. Now it had become a bridge, and bridges once built could lead anywhere. The days that followed were filled with lessons, presentations, and exchanges of culture. The humans showed the Solari their art, their music, and their stories. The Solari shared their deep knowledge of stars, crystals, and long histories carved into light. On the surface, everything looked calm and successful. But underneath, whispers began to spread. Among the Solari delegation, the younger scholars had noticed something unusual. Leora, who was known for her sharp mind and perfect discipline, was often seen with Ethan. She had begun asking more questions about humans, not about science or technology, but about words, emotions, and feelings. For the Solari, this was strange. Too strange. In the human quarters, Ethan's own team had also noticed. Maya cornered him one morning as he checked notes on his datapad. "You and the Solari scholar," she said with a raised eyebrow. "Something's going on." Ethan looked up quickly. "What? No, nothing's going on. We just talk, Maya repeated, crossing her arms. "Ethan, be careful. These exchanges are delicate. If people think you're too close to one of them, it could create problems." Ethan wanted to argue, but he swallowed his words. Maya was right in her own way. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about Leora, the way she had repeated the word lovely, the way she looked at him when she thought no one else was watching. That afternoon, Ethan attended a lecture on Solari history. The hall was filled with both humans and Solari. Leora stood at the front explaining the rise of her people. Her voice was calm, precise, every word clear. Yet when her gaze flickered toward Ethan, her eyes softened for just a heartbeat. Ethan caught it, and so did someone else. Elder Valan, leader of the Solari delegation, stood at the back. His tall figure cast a long shadow, and his eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the exchange. When the lecture ended, Ethan tried to slip out quietly. But Valan's voice stopped him. "Human Ethan," the elder said. Ethan froze. Slowly he turned. "Yes, Elder?" Valan stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "You have shown respect during these sessions. Yet there are concerns. Leora is one of our brightest scholars. She must not be distracted." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "I didn't mean to distract her. We only talk about words. She's curious, and I just answer." "Curiosity is valuable," Valan said slowly. "But it must not unbalance the mind. The bond between our people is fragile. Do not let personal matters weaken it." Ethan bowed his head slightly. "I understand." But as the elder walked away, Ethan's chest burned. Was it wrong to talk to her? Was it wrong to share simple words? That evening, Ethan found himself once again on the observation deck. He didn't expect Leora to come, but she did. She approached quietly, her silver-blue glow softer under the starlight. "You look troubled," she said. Ethan let out a breath. "Your elder spoke to me. He thinks I'm distracting you." Leora tilted her head. "And are you?" He hesitated. "I don't know, maybe. Do you feel distracted?" She turned to the stars, her eyes shining like mirrors. "Yes, but not in a way that feels wrong. Since we began speaking, I see things differently. I wonder if logic without feeling is incomplete. That thought would never have come to me before." Ethan was silent. Her words carried weight. They were more than curiosity. They were a shift in her very way of thinking. "But your people might not like that," Ethan said carefully. "They will not," she admitted. Then she looked at him again, her voice softer. "But I do not regret it." For a long moment neither spoke. The stars filled the silence, endless and calm. The next day tension grew more visible. During a joint discussion, one Silari scholar openly questioned Ethan's presence. "Why is the young human allowed so much time with our Leora?" the scholar asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Is this an exchange of knowledge or something else?" Murmurs spread through the hall. Humans shifted uncomfortably, and Solari exchanged glances. Ethan felt every gaze turned toward him. His mouth went dry. He wanted to defend himself, but before he could speak, Leora stepped forward. "It is knowledge," she said firmly. "I study human language, and Ethan answers my questions." "That is all?" Her voice was calm, but Ethan saw the faint glow in her cheeks. She was not lying exactly, but she was not telling the full truth either. The scholar narrowed his eyes, but said nothing more. Still, the suspicion in the room lingered like a shadow. That night, Ethan sat alone in his quarters, staring at his datapad but not reading a word. His thoughts spun endlessly. Was this worth it? Was he endangering the mission? A soft chime interrupted his storm of thoughts. The door slid open slightly and Leora stepped inside. She looked uneasy, her glow dimmer than usual. "I should not be here," she whispered. "But I needed to see you." Ethan stood, startled. "Leora, if someone see—" "They will not," she interrupted. Then she stepped closer. "Ethan, do you regret speaking that word to me?" "The first one." "Lovely," his heart pounded. "No," he said quietly. "I don't regret it," her eyes softened. "Then neither do I." For a moment, silence wrapped around them. The air felt charged, as if the whole station was holding its breath. "I do not know where this path leads," Leora said at last, "but I wish to walk it, even if others disapprove." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to say so much, but the words caught in his throat. At last, he managed. "Then we'll face it together." She nodded once, her glow brightening faintly. Then, with quiet grace, she turned and left, leaving Ethan standing alone, his heart racing. In the days that followed, suspicion continued to grow. Whispers spread among both delegations. Some humans feared Ethan might damage the alliance. Some Solari feared Leora was losing her discipline. The atmosphere became heavier, and every glance felt sharper. But in the quiet moments, during lessons and passing halls on the observation deck, Ethan and Leora continued to meet. They spoke in simple words, but those words carried more weight than entire speeches. One evening, as they stood by the stars, Leora asked softly, "Ethan, will humans always use words like yours? Words that carry both meaning and feeling?" "Yes," Ethan said. "It's part of who we are. She looked at him for a long time, her eyes shining. Then maybe, that is what makes you strong. And though tension wrapped around them like a net, Ethan felt a spark of hope. Maybe their bond was not a danger. Maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something that could change both their peoples forever. The calm of the orbital station was shattered by an urgent alarm that echoed through the halls. Ethan and the rest of the human delegation were quickly guided to the central command chamber, where holographic displays lit up with warnings. Elder Valen's voice came over the comm system, firm and controlled. "A foreign fleet has been detected approaching our sector. Their intentions are unknown. All delegates must remain in secure areas." Ethan's heart pounded. He had expected cultural tensions, whispers, and cautious curiosity. He had not expected a real threat. In the command chamber, humans and Solari stood together yet apart. The Solari moved with precision, issuing commands and analyzing data. Humans consulted each other nervously, unsure of how to act. Ethan felt small in the midst of it all, yet something inside him sparked. Leora approached him quietly, her glow soft but steady. "Ethan," she said, "this is not just about protocol now. This is about survival. Are you prepared?" I don't know," Ethan admitted. "But I want to help." Her eyes softened. "Then that is enough." The situation grew tense as the approaching fleet became clearer on the displays. Their ships were unlike anything humans or Solari had encountered. Sleek, dark, and moving with strange energy patterns, they seemed alive. Communication attempts went unanswered. The alien fleet simply advanced, ignoring all warnings. Elder Valen called for an emergency council. Both human and Solari leaders gathered in the largest chamber on the station. Ethan, though young and inexperienced, was allowed to attend as a translator and liaison. The debate was heated. Solari leaders emphasized strategy and caution, arguing for defensive measures. Human leaders worried about diplomacy, suggesting attempts to communicate peacefully. Tension between logic and emotion flared. Ethan felt overwhelmed. He glanced at Leora, who stood tall among her people, calm yet clearly worried. She caught his gaze and gave a faint nod. That simple gesture reminded him why he was here: to connect, to understand, and to bridge worlds. Finally, Elder Valen addressed the council. "We face an unknown enemy. We cannot act alone. The humans must assist us not because they are skilled warriors, but because their perspective may reveal something we have not considered." The room fell silent. Ethan's pulse quickened. They were counting on him, not for battle, but for understanding. Later, Ethan found himself in a planning room with Leora and several human officers. They were reviewing the data, trying to predict the fleet's movements. Leora traced patterns across the holographic map. "Their formations are unusual," she said. "They do not behave like other known species. They seem to respond more to intuition than strategy." Ethan leaned closer. "Intuition? You mean emotions?" She looked at him, eyes shining faintly. "Perhaps. That is what humans call emotion. If this fleet reacts to emotion, then logic alone may not be enough." Ethan nodded slowly. A plan began forming in his mind. "Then maybe we can use what we know about feelings, about words, to reach them. It's risky, but it's something new." Leora studied him carefully. "Do you truly believe words alone can influence them?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But it is worth trying. Sometimes humans succeed where reason cannot. Maybe feelings, if understood and shared, can act as a bridge, even with an enemy." Her glow brightened faintly. "Then we will try it together." The next hours were a blur of preparation. Humans and Solari worked side by side, combining their technology with Ethan's understanding of human emotion. They devised a system of light and sound signals designed to convey calm, respect, and trust, emotions they hoped could reach the alien fleet. Throughout the work, Ethan and Leora spent long moments together. Words were exchanged, simple and careful, yet loaded with meaning. "Ethan," Leora said softly, "do you ever worry that your people will fail?" "All the time," he replied honestly. "But fear cannot stop us. Courage, understanding, that is what makes us human. Maybe that is what can save both our species today." Her glow brightened again. "Then I will remember that. We are stronger together, stronger than I thought possible." Their bond, though quiet and subtle, became a source of strength. They were no longer just human and Solari. They were a team, a bridge between worlds. Finally, the moment came to test their plan. The alien fleet hovered near the station. dark ships moving like shadows across the void. Holographic projectors activated, displaying waves of light and sound meant to convey calm and goodwill. Ethan watched with Leora at his side. He whispered, "It's time. We've done all we can. Now we wait." The signals traveled through space, a symphony of color, pattern, and tone. Minutes passed like hours. The alien ships paused. Their energy shifted. Slowly they began to respond, not with attack but with observation. Ethan's heart leapt. "It's working," he whispered. Leora's eyes shone bright. "Yes, they are listening." Then a single ship detached from the formation and approached the station. A beam of light connected it to the Human-Solari Alliance, transmitting images and symbols. Though neither humans nor Solari could fully interpret the messages, it was clear. The aliens were open to communication. Ethan exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. The station had survived the immediate threat. But he knew this was only the beginning. Understanding would take time, patience, and courage. In the quiet aftermath, humans and Solari gathered together. They shared observations, compared notes, and reflected on the lessons of the encounter. Ethan felt exhausted but alive, his thoughts still filled with Leora's calm presence. She approached him, eyes shining softly. "You were brave," she said. "I was just trying to do what humans do best," he replied. "We reach out even when it seems impossible. We try to understand, and we never give up." Her glow brightened slightly, as if the stars themselves reflected in her eyes. "Then perhaps humans are more than what we imagined." "Perhaps they are lovely." Ethan smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. He realized that the word had returned to him, but now it carried new meaning: courage, empathy, and connection. The next days were quieter. The alien fleet remained nearby but no longer threatened. Scientists from both species worked tirelessly to interpret the new communications, while the human and Solari delegations grew closer, learning not just about knowledge, but about understanding and trust. Ethan continued to meet Leora in private moments, discussing words, feelings, and the strange mix of logic and emotion that had saved them. Each encounter deepened their bond, though both knew the alliance depended on discretion and careful handling. Yet even as whispers of tension remained among some Solari elders, the young human diplomat felt certain of one thing: courage, curiosity, and kindness had changed the course of the day. And with Leora by his side, Ethan knew that no challenge, no matter how unknown or frightening, was impossible. The calm of the orbital station had returned, but tension hung in the air like a low cloud. The alien fleet remained close and communications continued. Messages from the unknown aliens were still difficult to interpret, but signs of cooperation were slowly appearing. Both humans and Solari knew this was only temporary. One wrong move could turn curiosity into conflict. Ethan walked through the corridors of the station, carrying a small tablet with the latest translations. His mind was filled with symbols, light patterns, and the subtle shifts in alien energy he could barely understand. Yet through it all, one thought remained. He could not have done any of this without Leora. He found her in the observation deck, staring at the stars. The alien fleet moved silently beyond the glass, their ships reflecting tiny pinpricks of light. "They are still cautious," Ethan said. "We need to find a way to earn their trust completely." Leora nodded, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly. "Yes, we must show them that we understand, not only with logic but with feeling. You have already shown them this, human, but it must continue." Ethan swallowed. "What do we do?" She turned to him, eyes bright. "We must speak to them directly, not with weapons or symbols, with words. Words that show our intent, our hope, and our respect." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Direct contact with the alien fleet? It was risky, but he trusted her judgment. "Then let's do it," he said. The command chamber was alive with activity. Humans and Solari worked together, combining their technology and understanding. Holographic projections glowed with images of Earth cities, forests, oceans, and the vast diversity of life. Symbols of peace and friendship were intertwined with messages of respect and hope. Ethan held a small microphone, connected to a universal translator. His hands shook slightly, but Leora's steady presence gave him courage. "You can do this," she whispered. Ethan took a deep breath. "Here goes," he began to speak. "We are humans. We come from a world of life, of learning, and of hope. We do not wish harm. We seek understanding, friendship, and cooperation. We recognize your intelligence and your power, and we wish to share knowledge, peace, and respect with you. As he spoke, the alien ship seemed to shift. Their lights pulsed in response to his words. It was subtle at first, but undeniable. Leora watched closely, her hand hovering over a console. "You are reaching them," she said quietly. "Keep going," Ethan continued. "We know that fear and anger can spread quickly, but hope, trust, and understanding are stronger. We ask for your trust. We offer ours in return. Let us work together, not against each other." A beam of light shot from the lead alien ship, projecting images across the chamber. Symbols of life, energy, and growth appeared, moving like a language Ethan could almost understand. But what struck him most was the sense of emotion behind the patterns. It was almost as if the aliens were responding not to his words alone, but to the sincerity he felt while speaking. Leora stepped forward. "Now, human, show them the words that changed me." Ethan hesitated for a moment, then spoke clearly, softly but with meaning. "Lovely, we honor life. We honor connection. We honor the beauty of learning from one another." The word hung in the air like a thread of light. Across the station, both humans and Solari paused, feeling the weight of the moment. The alien fleet's lights brightened, pulsing rhythmically. The ships shifted closer to the station, no longer threatening but curious. Ethan's heart leapt. They were listening. The moment was not without danger. A sudden warning flashed across the console. One of the alien ships began to accelerate toward the station. Panic spread through the command chamber. "They misunderstand," shouted one of the Solari commanders. "They think we are hostile!" Ethan's hands tightened on the microphone. "No, wait. We are not hostile," he shouted. His voice rang out, amplified and translated. Leora pressed a sequence on her console, sending an array of calming light pulses toward the approaching ship. The colors shifted smoothly, mimicking the tone and emotion of Ethan's words. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the ship slowed. Its energy readings stabilized. It hovered silently, its lights synchronized with the station's signals. Ethan exhaled, trembling with relief. Leora placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. Together we did it. The rest of the fleet began to mirror the lead ship's behavior. Instead of advancing aggressively, they moved in patterns that suggested curiosity and observation. Both humans and Solari watched in awe as the fleet responded to communication in ways no one had thought possible. As the hours passed, translation systems began decoding parts of the alien symbols. The messages conveyed the aliens' history, their fears, and their need for understanding. They had encountered other species before, many of whom had responded with aggression. But Ethan and Leora had shown something new, compassion combined with logic. Ethan realized how much Leora had helped. Without her guidance, the subtle emotional cues, the understanding of how meaning and feeling could be combined, he would never have reached the fleet. At last, Elder Valen addressed both delegations. "Today, humans and Solari have done what neither could do alone. You have reached minds that others feared to touch. You have demonstrated the strength of cooperation and understanding." Ethan felt a mix of pride and disbelief. He, a young human diplomat, had played a role in forging peace with an unknown species, and Leora, her willingness to embrace both curiosity and emotion, had been his guide. That evening, after the immediate crisis passed, Ethan and Leora found themselves alone on the observation deck once more. The alien fleet had moved slightly away, now observing from a safe distance, but with clear interest. "You were incredible today," Ethan said, his voice soft. "You were incredible," Leora replied, her glow brightening slightly. "Without your words, your courage, I could not have done it either." Ethan smiled. "I guess humans really are good at hope and connection." "And sometimes that is enough," Leora said, looking at him closely. "You showed me that." For a long moment they simply stood together, letting the stars stretch above them. The fear and tension of the day had faded, replaced by a quiet sense of triumph and possibility. Then Leora's voice, soft and almost shy, broke the silence. "Say it again, human." Ethan's heart raced, but he smiled. "Lovely," he said, this time with full intent, full respect, and full understanding. Her glow brightened and she nodded. "It is still the right word." In that moment, Ethan realized something important. The word was more than a compliment. It was a bridge, a connection, a reminder that courage, kindness, and honesty could reach even the most distant mind. And as he looked at Leora, he understood that together, They had not only saved the station and built trust with a new species, they had also created a bond that would shape the future of both their worlds. The night stretched on, quiet and peaceful. Ethan knew that challenges would come again. The alien fleet was still largely unknown. Yet for now, humans and Solari had proven that understanding could triumph over fear. And in the soft glow of starlight, Ethan and Leora smiled, knowing they had faced the impossible, together.